Welcome to another episode of the Alley Report, a part of the Service Department. Today we're talking to Damien Casey. We're going to talk about his latest, Church of Skaten, and also Robot Ninja. And thanks for being on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Why did that
Yeah,
say that to me? It yelled at me just now, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." It's like, yeah, I know there's a meeting in progress. I've been talking to Elford for like, I don't know, a long
yes,
time now.
yeah. Um,
Anyway, yeah, thanks for having me again. It's always fun being on here and just chatting.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so I really like Church of Skaten. I feel like it's your Bubblegum Bizarro, style, but also it just seems like it's kind of a darker story too.
Yeah, thank you. I really wanted to make something that was more serious. When I started writing it, like I was kind of like going through it a little bit. So I was like, I don't really feel like being funny right now. I just don't feel like being funny. So like I started like the first few chapters just being really serious, kind of coming of age, and then like as I kind of got it out, it started to get a little bit weirder, I think, near the end. I think I had a nice personally and no and spoil skis, I guess, like a good transition from kind of normal horror in my style to what I usually do in a way,
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
yeah, because I feel like it was a darker turn. There were a lot of stakes for characters, and just a lot of little creepy set pieces. Like, I don't want to give too much away, but like the little machine things. That was great.
That was one of my favorite parts. I was, it's kind of cringe, I guess some people might call it, but like my one of my favorite metal albums of all time is Obsolete by Fear Factory. It's like new metal, I guess. Like it's not like, Deicide or something like cool, but like it's what I like. I've liked this since middle school. But that album's like about robots taking over the world, kind of. And I was listening to it a lot and I was like, man, this would be really cool to kind of like tie into a story. So that's where that kind of stuff came from.
Yeah, yeah, it was really creepy set pieces to it also, and just being in an abandoned church. I feel like that is just a creepy enough location as it is.
Yeah, totally. Like I always tell people this, like even this, like because I've been in a couple like mega churches, I guess you'd call them, and they're even like there's just something about being in a church that's creepy as it is, even if it's like one of those like new like weird like what's the word I'm looking for with the strobe lights and stuff like very modern
Yeah,
churches. You're still kind of like, yeah, this is a little creepy still. Like I don't know why.
like like
Maybe
I don't.
maybe it's like the Holy Ghost. Like they never. For some reason, this always comes up on podcasts with me. I don't know why. Like the Holy Ghost is like that's what I want to hear about. Not like Jesus or like the
Yeah,
God part of the Trinity. Like, what about the ghost? Like, what about the
yeah,
cool ass ghost? Like, maybe that's why church is just so creepy because of a ghost.
yeah, and yeah, it is. Well, I think they probably don't because they got to talk about the Holy Trinity, which is like you can. I mean, people have been trying for 2,000 years to make that work. It's never going to work. It's never going to
No,
have an explanation that makes sense.
it's like it's like a superhero team. There's always going to be that one guy that gets left behind.
Yeah,
It's like the ghost always gets left behind. And you're like, oh, what a bummer. Like, can I just hear about like this creepy ghost guy like going around and like palling around Jesus times? I guess I don't know.
yeah. Um, I thought it was really a lot of stuff like the interesting things in the Bible. Like, there's so much of like kind of cosmic horror style stuff. Like, you read about like he descends on Mount Sinai in like a flaming cloud, and people look at him, they instantly die, and the only person who's allowed to
Yeah,
look at him, like his hair is like bleached white, which is what happens to Henry Bowers when he looks at it. And so I was like, I want more of that. I want more of that.
yeah. Like there are some very weird things in the Bible. Like I was talking to Kirsten on her podcast like a few week like last weekish, maybe this past week. I don't remember. And we were talking about how it's so fun to like reinvent stories from the Bible because of that reason. Like it's just to me fiction, almost like it's manipulated fiction essentially to we won't get into all the religion stuff, like we'll be here for hours with me, but like I think it's really fascinating. Like there's like all these satanic cults that you can read about that have like completely turned the Bible into something that's like almost like it was written by the enemy in a way, like the
Yeah.
enemy of like being a freedom and being yourself, and it's like things that like paint Eve as like the ultimate symbol of freedom. Like I tried to tie into it with skate and kind of spoil skis again, but like I think that type of stuff's really fascinating.
Yeah, and that's not even new because like the early Gnostics had a lot of beliefs along those systems.
Yeah,
Like a lot of them were like, oh, God is the evil entity, and essentially Jesus and Satan were overthrowing him. And so there's a lot of, it didn't make it to modern day, but there was
yeah,
a very prominent.
yeah, and that's where some of the elements of the book came from. Actually, was like some of the spin-off, like small Gnostic cults that I
Yeah.
was reading about. Like, there's a cult called Our Lady of Endor, which is about the Witch of Endor. It sounds like a Star Wars movie, doesn't it? Our Lady of Endor. Like, what a cool title for a Star Wars movie. Like, can we have like space witches now? That'd be badass.
Yeah.
But like, sorry, got this cough from my students and I can't get it to go away. Um, so like they believed like the snake was coming to show Eve like freedom and all that, and they actually worshipped like the Witch of Endor. And it's fascinating because there's not that much information about them because it was like a cult in the 1870s, and then they went away and came back in the 1970s. So it was like an 100-year cycle, which is very strange. But it was like it's just interesting stuff to me that they see it more as God was being like this tyrant as opposed to like, here's your life. Like he was like, oh yeah, here's your life, but you didn't do exactly what I wanted you to.
Yeah. And like the Witch of Endor, that's another thing of like, just in the middle of the Bible is like, um, let's bring Samuel back to give me some advice real quick, and like, and like, uh, which brings him back to life, and he's like, "Why have you awakened me?" It's like, I want more of that. Like, there's not a lot of
Yeah,
afterlife discussion.
yeah. I don't really want to hear about like God and the devil playing like that weird game over like Job's patience. Like I want to read about like the inside of a giant sea monster and stuff.
Yeah, like so Leviathan a little bit.
Yeah, or like the trippy like the like acid trip of Revelation. Like that thing is insane.
Yeah, like, uh, and it's great. It's also like that's always been my big thing is I'm not a fan of the Book of Revelation because it's so misinterpreted because it was like not really prophecy. It was like for the first century people like warning them about Rome and about that Nero was going to come back from the dead and get them. And then later on they're like, oh no, it's about the future. It's like it's not about the future. It's like, but it's like everything we can't have healthcare because that would be the mark of the devil somehow. It's like everything we can't have in modern day goes back to some interpretation of Revelation. It's like that book
Yeah, it's always
bugs me.
isn't the thing. Yeah, and I hope we don't offend anybody if there are people that are Christians that are listening. Like I respect people that are Christians and I have no problem with them. I guess this is more like a kind of like a gross Christian thing where it's always like the cool thing I guess that you find about Christianity is that like for them is it's always like if something good happens, it's God, right? And then if something bad happens, it's like God's teaching you a lesson. And it's like you're always winning. You're always winning. And that's what that is. It's like anything that could benefit a mass group of people is like the Tower of Babel effect, where it's like we
Yeah,
can't all speak the same language because then we built a tower to heaven. It's like, but aren't we all like in your religion? Aren't we supposed to be trying to get to heaven? So then why is that a problem? Like, shouldn't we be working together? No, can't have the one word world government because that would be Satan. Oh, that's I don't.
yeah.
I've never understood it.
It was a book that almost didn't even make it in. Like there was like two apocalypses that they were choosing between. They're like, all right, do we go with the apocalypse of Paul or the Revelation of John? Like let's just go with John. It won't come back to bite us in the future.
Yeah, wrong, wrong.
uh, but oh, also Robot Ninja. That's coming out.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of weird actually. That like now that I think about it, because I was writing that kind of at the same time as skate, and that's robotics too. So it's like,
I was wondering that. Like,
yeah, I never put two and two together on that one. That's kind of strange. Um, yeah. So Robot Ninja is a novelization of J.R. Bookwater's movie Robot Ninja, shot on video. It's like it's a commentary on the comic book industry, which I love. Like as you can kind of maybe
yeah,
see. I'm a big comic book fan. And it's just getting to play around in that sandbox was a lot of fun. Like I had a lot of fun doing it, and I think JR enjoyed what I did. I know the guys in Encyclopocalypse had a lot of fun reading what I did. Like I just took time to make a lot. Like I just took a ton of time to make a lot of commentary about like how popular Marvel movies are and like the Walking Dead fandoms and things like that that have blown up so big that like some people misinterpret in a way, like
Yeah.
as a bad thing, but can be a good thing, I guess. I don't know. There's a ton of commentary on good and bad in the comic industry in it, but it was a lot of fun to write something that was over the top about like kind of a Batman type character, like a vigilante type character.
And did you get like whenever you were adapting that, did they give you like a screenplay or was it like you put the movie in and you're like following it? Like,
Oh man, like JR was awesome. Like he sent over like files and files of stuff. Like I'm doing the Dead Next Door, which is another one of his movies next, and I have I think 5 or 6 drafts, maybe more, that he sent over of scripts, and it's like looking at scenes that didn't make it into the movie or like lines that didn't, and it's just like, wow, you could like turn this into an entire chapter almost. And that was a lot of fun to read through and get little ideas like, oh, okay, so this is something that didn't make the final cut and kind of bring it back, but in a bigger way, sort of, if that makes any sense. I
oh,
say that a
that's
lot.
cool.
I say if that makes any sense a lot. I'm picking up on my works here.
Um, and like that's gonna be cool when he reads it. It's like, were there ever moments that he read in the book where he was like, "Hey, you brought that back," or that was a cut scene and you managed to bring it in?
Yeah, there's definitely been talks about like things, especially like mainly before I started writing. Like he was like, I'd really like if this scene could come back, or this scene could come back, or maybe if we messed around with this idea a lot. He's been out promoting his new movie. I believe it's called Side Effects May Vary, which I'm really excited to see. I haven't got to watch it yet. I was gonna go hang out with him and watch it at a theater, but I got stuck doing school stuff that night, and it was just such a bummer. But yeah, like he's been promoting it, so there hasn't been as much conversation as I think he'd like, just kind of like in passing. So I'm hoping with Dead Next Door we can get more into those type of things. But there's definitely some stuff like that that he wanted brought back in that I was able to do, and that I'm going to do with Dead Next Door, which is really fun.
Okay, I love that he was involved because I just always wondered when people are going back with Encyclopocalypse Press, like when they're bringing these stories back and adapting these
Yeah,
movies, how involved the original creators would be. Are they just like, yeah, sure, like they sign a thing, that's it, or are they just like they want to be involved?
yeah, I would say it varies. Like I know with me, it was a very much like, here's some ideas I have, here's some ideas that I had when I was writing it that I think are cool, and then it was kind of like, now go crazy with it, kind of like it was almost like I was joking with Sean from Encyclopocalypse that it's kind of like co-parenting in a way. It's it's like JR had Little Robot Ninja for like this many years, and then he was like, "Here, you can babysit him for a little bit and do something else with it." It's like he gave me a list of like he likes this at midnight, and he eats this type of Twinkie, like, but do anything else you want. So it was kind of fun to do that.
Oh, that's awesome. And do you have anything else coming out soon, like that we need to know about? I know we got Robot Ninja and
Yeah,
just came out.
I have. Oh, I should mention the pirate book, shouldn't I? I
Yeah,
have a pirate, one of the pirate horror books with how do I word that? Anyway, I have a pirate horror book coming out. I'm not even going to try to word that. Um, called the 19th of the River Styx, and it's about a group of pirates who go to hell to try and get Satan's treasure, which is like the cheesiest possible concept you could come up with for pirates, but it's cheesiness and corniness of it kind of plays into some of the elements that happen in it to make it. Can't say that either because of spoilers. Like I'm flighty today, man. Sorry. It's wild. But yeah, that comes out in December, I believe, which will be fun. It'll be a great read. I hope people enjoy it.
yeah. Oh,
And
I mean,
there's also now that I think about that, there's also like some weird like kind of skate and like body horror in that. And I was writing that around the same time. Like I must have just been watching Evil Dead like on repeat for that little era.
I love that though. Like,
Yeah.
I just watched Evil
When
Dead Rise finally. Um,
oh man, did you like it?
I loved it.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. When I saw that in theaters, like it like made me like want to watch all the old ones over and over and over again until that came out again, like on physical media. And I've watched it since it came out. I've watched it in the double digits. It's so fun, but
I mean,
also so like good.
and I love that like the main character, like I feel like she becomes Bruce Campbell in the third act. Like there's something about the line delivery where she's covered in blood, has the chainsaw, and she yells at her little sister like, Cassie, turn it on. But she has such a weird inflection. I was like, oh, she turned into Bruce Campbell for a minute there. I love it.
Yeah, I I'm like one of the rare people who wasn't a real big fan of like the remake or sequel or whatever it was that I can't remember who the director was. Alvarez did.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know. It was a lot of gore for me and not a whole lot of character work. And a lot of the reason why I like horror, if people read my stuff, they can probably tell is I really like the character. Like I love characters
yeah,
and dialogue and it's like quirky people. And I felt like that was lacking, so that I didn't really connect with it as much. I've The past couple times I've watched it, I've liked it more, especially like Maya's arc and that end scene where she's just like killing the main demon and it's raining
yes,
blood. It's just so badass. Like, there's no way you can beat that imagery. You're just like,
yeah.
okay,
It's
this is
just
worth this, I guess. But yeah, like I loved Rise. A lot of people weren't fans of Rise, I think, but I loved Rise, and I love how it made it so that there was the three books from like Army of Darkness
yeah.
in each timeline now, so it's like they could have Bruce and Maya and the girl at the end of Evil Dead Rise like all in one movie, and it would be so damn cool.
Well, there's a part where they're listening to that recording, and when I was pre talking about the book, you hear somebody yell like burn it, and that's Bruce Campbell. And the director said that
Yeah,
that's not. He said, "Oh yeah, that's Ash. He's just been time displaced. Like that's him." So he's
he's
in.
just he's just been traveling through time
Yeah,
forever.
which I love that idea. I love it's like you just go throw him in. It's like, yeah, that's him. Like,
Like weird Back to the Future with like demons.
yeah, like I mean that's what happens in like they bring Ash versus Evil Dead back as a cartoon, which I've heard rumors of.
Yeah, that'd be so cool.
Which I'd love that
Because that would like
series so much.
it would be really cool if they made it like a almost like a Tales from the Crypt style series and played with that like him and time displacement. Because then you
Yeah,
wouldn't have to use de-aging. Like you could like make an 80s Saturday morning style cartoon with Ash fighting like
that'd be
deadites in a
fun.
mall. And then the next one could be like a Hanna-Barbera 60s style animation. That would be so much fun.
Yeah, bring in the Ghost Speeders from Ash vs Evil
Yeah.
Dead. 'Cause I'd love them like because I know Bruce Campbell talked about he was like I can't do it anymore, but I was fine if just continue with them. Like they were great.
Yeah.
Got 4 seasons to get to know them.
I think we're getting like two new movies, right? Like they're
Yeah,
making two new movies at the same time, which is crazy to me. It's like we waited how long between Evil Dead movies and now we're getting two at the same time?
yeah, and I love the idea of like just different writers and directors and like you just do your own version of it. It's like perfect. I love that.
Yeah, totally. I think Evil Dead for me was like one of those movies, especially Evil Dead 2, that like flies under the radar or something that I don't really mention as an influence a lot, but it's definitely like the bizarre nature of Evil Dead 2 and the creatures and the humor and everything is definitely something that I can see when I rewatch it. Like once or twice a year, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see we're watching this at 12 or 13 made me
Yeah,
this, made me this.
I kind of had that. I rewatched The Frighteners because Katie never seen it. And I was like midway through, I was like, so this is just my origin story. This is just me. Like
Oh
this
yeah,
had a
totally. I could see that.
this had
I could
such a.
totally see that.
I've never seen it by myself. It was like an empty theater. There's nobody there when I saw it. It was just me. Like I was like,
Yeah,
this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
I remember the first time I saw The Frighteners, it was on VHS. We didn't have a whole lot of money growing up, and I've talked about like being left at the video like at the like theater for like babysitting essentially. Like it was my babysitter growing up. But I didn't see the Frighteners there. And I don't know why. Like I don't feel like I ever saw anything about the Frighteners until it was on home video. And the video store had like that really cool like holographic cover that when you moved it, like the face came out, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll watch this. And like I just instantly rented it and took it to my grandmother's house and watched it and was like, this is incredible.
Yeah, it's and it feels. What's funny is it was supposed to be a Tales from the Crypt episode, and they were like, "Oh, we have more here," and it really feels like that. It captures that feel of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so much fun, and it's so like there's so much heart in it. I can definitely see how that like little Elford at home was watching it like, I'm gonna make this one day. Like I could totally see
It's
that.
just
Because it's
absorbing into
so
my brain.
yeah, like something that movie does and something let me hype you up for a minute. Like something that that movie does really well and your work has always done really well is like if there's something supernatural, it feels very go if it's a ghost or something like that supernatural, but it feels very physical and you can touch it. Like there's not very many movies that are ghost movies that have that feel to it, right? Like
Yeah.
and help you'll have to remind me the name of your collection with the mother and daughter who can't move out of the house because they can't afford to and it's haunted.
Oh,
We just talked about this because of Monsters Among Us.
Last Night in the Damned House.
Yeah, there it is. I kept wanting to say I knew it was the damn house, but I couldn't remember what was before it. And it's like that story feels like there's a physical presence there, but it's not. And it's that's how the Frighteners has always been to me. Like it feels like when he's in his Reaper get up and stuff, it feels very physical and like you could reach out and touch it, but it's not.
Yeah. I well, thank you. Appreciate that.
You spent like 20 minutes hyping me up. I have to like I can't take it. I can't take it. You're like leaps and bounds above most of us. Like come on. And
No
you're on
way.
here hyping me up. Imagine how that feels. Come on.
No way. Um, I've noticed I you sent me that video, that Bigfoot video that guy took in Oklahoma, and now I've kind of seen it start to spread around and stuff. Where the guy sees it for like a second, it's like, oh shit. Um,
Yeah, I was wondering if we would talk about that. I guess that was like for a head shop or something. I
oh, did they
found
finally
out.
say what it was?
Yeah,
I didn't.
it was like viral marketing. Isn't that such a bummer?
It's always, yeah, it's always like that one guy said, I found the skull of one. And it's like viral marketing.
I don't know why, but when I saw that skull that time, I wanted to get excited, and I think I like convinced myself that it was real. But then, like at some point in time, I was like, "That's not real," and then it wasn't real.
I didn't. Well, what got me when I was looking, I was like, man, it's got that giant crest thing, and I don't. Based on what people said, Bigfoots don't have them, which is hilarious because most people are like, it's a gorilla skull, and I'm like, based on what I know about Bigfoot.
Yeah, based on my knowledge of Bigfoot, like I was not like when it's so funny that people like us. I was talking to Steve Stratt about this like just yesterday because of that video. Like people like us who are Bigfoot enthusiasts, like we're like trying to like find real videos. We're just like, this footage looks a little too clear. Based on
And that,
my
yeah,
knowledge, there's no way this footage can be clear.
yeah, yeah, exactly. 'Cause you see one that's like blurry, and it's like maybe. The second it's clear,
Yeah,
it's like no, you didn't. Like,
there's I heard a theory on a podcast I listened to called Bigfoot Collectors Club, and they were talking about how I don't remember if this was a study or not with actual primates where they put a camera in a like enclosure and they all like sense the electricity. They could sense the
yeah,
electricity about it, like the electronics. So they're like some people have this theory that Bigfoot like can sense that people are like in the woods with electronics.
yeah. I've also heard like that
So they try to
that like some animals smell them too because they just smell like
yeah.
plastic and petroleum. So like that they've noticed that animals like chimps and stuff in the wild avoid them at all
Mhm.
cost. So it's one of those
Which
like,
is
oh, that's
like
why that's why they don't
and
work, I
it's
guess.
like I like how it's like we will like do actual research on like wildlife. Like I will spend hours reading stuff about like why would a Bigfoot body decompose in the woods so fast? And I'll go online and be like, how long will a bear carcass take to decompose in the deep woods? And like I'll be researching it for hours and I'll retain none of that knowledge. I'll retain just enough to be like, well, you see, this is why it happens. Whenever somebody's like, how come we haven't found a body?
Yeah, it's like you start getting defensive. It's like um same with like the dermal ridges. I saw one study where somebody had set out fake tracks, and when they looked at them, it looked like it was dermal ridges because of the way like the plaster settles. And I was like, don't do that to me. That's all I
Don't
have.
do
That's
it.
all that's left.
Don't you don't take Bigfoot from me, please. Like I still uh,
It's like I have these
they can't
footprints in the Patterson Gimlin film. And I got nothing else to back up why I believe in this.
oh my god, the Patterson Gimlin footage is like I always use that every time anybody says something about, well, Bigfoot's fake. I'm like, what about the Patterson Gimlin footage? Wasn't that a guy in a suit? No. Two people said that it was them, but it was proven false. Oh,
Yeah,
well, it was a guy in a suit, and you're like, have you not seen Planet of the Apes? Like the technology was not there to make that. It just
yeah.
was not there.
No, it's like, yeah, absolutely. Nobody could. I remember shows in the 90s that were like, oh, we'll go out in the woods and prove it. Like we'll make our own. And it always looks so bad. Like doing the same
Yeah.
distance and all that. It's just you don't see any of that muscle movement or anything like that.
And some people, I love the argument of, well, they were filming a Bigfoot documentary when they found it. Okay, yeah, but they film like tiger documentaries when they find tigers. Like nobody's out here saying that that's not a real tiger. Like you go if you're filming a documentary about like a puffer fish, you don't like go to Midwestern Ohio flatland. Like you go to the
Yeah.
ocean. Like they were filming it there because that's where the reports were. So it was like, yeah, the chances were doubled to see it. I don't know. We might have our tinfoil hats on this one.
Yeah. I have there's some people that live near me that have some that they say they because they talk to me through my mother-in-law because they're like, we've been having these weird things happen. And she was like, you got to talk to my son-in-law because they're talking about like it sounds like chimps. It sounds like things in the woods making all this noise. And second, we go outside, everything runs off. It's real, sounds like real heavy. And so I'm like, and I've been out there a few times just walking around, like hoping I'll find a footprint or something.
Oh, it'd be so cool, wouldn't it? Like to find something and just be like, "Are you still okay?" I thought I lost you. Like just to find something and be like, "Wow, finally, after all this time, I found the reason
Yes,
to stay alive. Bigfoot
yes.
is real."
It's like I need this. Like all my other like things I believe in have fallen apart. I just need Sasquatch.
Yeah, maybe that's what we should. Maybe that's our project we should pitch to Zerv. Is like a Bigfoot anthology by only authors who actually like know about Bigfoot and not like
Yeah,
people who are like, oh, I'll write a Bigfoot killing people story. Like, no, it has to be people like us who are actually like
yeah.
crazy about it.
You have to have lost the respect of friends and family before you can even be in this anthology.
Oh
There's
my!
many people close to you who think less of you now.
You have to be a. You have got to at least be on the level of a person who's a public school teacher, spending 45 minutes trying to prove that Bigfoot is real to a room of 15-year-olds who are just looking at you like you're a lunatic.
You
Like
you're
core
doing the real
memory,
work. You're changing minds.
right? I'm not. Who needs like Shakespeare when I can prove Bigfoot is real in the language arts class?
You're expanding their horizon. That's
They're
that's all
they
they're gonna
they just
remember.
they just oh man, I showed them that Patterson Gimlin footage like 500 times, and like I kept rewinding and pausing and going, "Do you not notice something strange about this Bigfoot suit?" And they'd all just go, "No," and I'd go, Do you not notice that like maybe it might have like I don't know a determined sex? Like it might have like certain physical traits that might make it a mother?" And they, huh?
You're literally like back
They just
and to the left, back and to the
yeah.
left.
Mr. Spencer, you've been watching it too much. It's like, I haven't. I've watched it just enough to know that it's real.
It's like don't worry about kids. I'm in too deep. You can't help me now.
It's like I forget it. I've gone over the edge. Just here's your vocab test, I guess. Whatever.
Oh well, thank you, man, for coming on here. This has been awesome. Um,
Yeah,
and yeah,
nice.
everybody out there, read Church of Skating. It's awesome, and just basically anything else Damien's read. I'm a huge fan, and you can't go wrong.
Thank you. That means so much. That means so much coming from you. Because it's just like this moment where we're both gonna be like fanboying over each other. Like, no, like you're awesome. No, you're awesome. Like it's
You're the
such a
new
sweet
face of
moment.
horror, damn it.
Ugh.